catch my breath. A shadow chasing me, a game of hide and seek. Found they'll have a key.
All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion. Well, okay, not today. It's not going to be a deconversion story today, guys. Just so you know. Oh, and look at that. We already had, that was a coins, I think, there, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Steve, I forgot to mention that we do. Oh, Steve is gone. We've been having some issues with the with his connection there, so we're going to try and muddle our way through this as best as we can. So the moment he comes back, we'll get back to the triple layout. But yeah, before Steve comes back, I was just looking up plane ticket prices to go to Fort Wayne for Better conference, because I bought tickets today. I bought the Grand Poobah ticket, the $240 bazillion ticket. So I get to do all the things,
All the stuff and things.
all the stuff and things and stuff. And anyway, it was going to cost me over $1,000 to fly from Vancouver to Fort Wayne. However, and I said, you know what? Maybe I'll just fly to Mikey and we can drive down together. And it's going to cost half that to get to my head. Chicago and Fort Wayne are almost like the same distance. I don't get that at all.
It's
So-
like 300 miles.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Anyway, I don't know why it costs so much to go to Fort Wayne. Maybe because nobody really goes there, so the plane might have 4 people in it. I'm not sure.
Nobody
gotta make
wants
up
to
for
be
it.
there.
Nobody likes Oz.
Nobody wants to be there.
Anyway, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fly to Chicago, because then I
Yeah.
could technically say I've been there. And well, I will be there because I'll be with Mikey, and then we're going to drive down to Fort Wayne together,
Bum, 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 bum.
holding hands and stuff, as
Mhm.
we do. Anyway, but yeah, I think
Yep.
it'll be a good time. I think it'll be a great conference.
You'll know we have arrived when you just see a white SUV blasting metal with my subwoofers. Because I finally tuned them up right. I can now listen to metal properly.
Okay.
Get some good thump on the bass kick without it getting all fuzzy. It's nice.
So I wonder why. He must be
Let's
having
see.
some serious issues there.
Yeah, he texted me. He's restarting his stuff.
Oh, is he
Dave-
restarting, redoing it? Okay.
Yeah. And Dave, don't start that rumor again. All right. You calm down over there.
Randy, just calm down, Dave.
No, I'm not from Gary. God damn it.
Oh shit, that's right.
I'm not
Oh,
even
yeah,
from Chicago.
Just FYI, I'm co-hosting Truth Wanted tomorrow night with ex-Jen Aaron.
Nice.
So that should be kind of fun. They had somebody scheduled, but apparently the person didn't get back to them, so they're like, "Fuck it, we'll just throw Neil in there." Neil's like the replacement guy, so we'll just throw him in there. And I have to do some stuff for them before the show tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to do that like right after this, I guess. Shit, I forgot about that. My bad, people.
Oops.
My bad.
It's okay. There's no one here. No one can hear us. It's fine.
Well, yeah, there's a bunch of people in the audience there, buddy.
No. What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
There's Kyle and Ollie and Roger and Derek and some guy named Neil the 604 douchebag and Dave and Madam Who and Miss Sassy. Sassy! Hey, how you
Well.
doing?
Blast from the past.
And Paul, who graced our after party for the first time.
Nice.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun. So we're just for those of you who just joined us, the guest lost their connection, so just rebooting and getting things into gear again, and then we'll get to chit-chatting a little bit about Steve. He ran for Congress in District 39 down in California. He is the only atheist, I believe, running there.
Yeah.
He's a cradle atheist, and he didn't even know that expression existed. That's how into atheism stuff he was, right? He was always considered himself a non-believer. And when he heard, no, you weren't annoying, Paul. It's okay. There he is. There we go. Fix it, Mikey.
Ooh,
There we
fix
go.
it.
My Mac, it's got like a Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter thing, and if I touch it,
Oh,
it goes, "Oh, I lost everything. I can't do anything now." So I'm like, "Oh,
Well, Steve, don't touch it.
I'm not going to touch it. I promise I won't touch it."
So I was just filling in the audience a little bit background of you, but you were running for Congress in 2020 down in District 39 in Cali there.
Yeah.
You were the only atheist, I believe, doing that.
I mean, I didn't quiz everybody, but I assume that's probably correct.
I would say more than likely.
Yeah. Although, honestly, I think a lot of the people running for office are atheists. They're just not allowed to say it. You know, like that.
You're probably right.
You know, I think a lot of them are sociopaths, and I don't know that sociopaths are all that religious. So, you know, I don't know.
That's a fair assessment, I must say.
Yeah.
So you were independent. You weren't like Republican, Democrat, anything like that, right? So.
No, I'm independent why is this doing this to me? What is happening? Okay. Why?
Are you touching it?
Oh, because hold on. Hold on a second. My computer is still deciding it's going to do some stuff. So.
Clean enough.
Hey. Okay. All right. We're good. So no. What were we asking? Because I couldn't even see what I was going.
The whole deal about running as an atheist, like what kind of shit did you run into? Like what kind of walls were thrown
I used
up at
to.
you?
It was all pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I was knocking on doors constantly. So to me, it was like, you know, I didn't have any money, so most of the time when people run for office and they're doing the door knocking thing, they're part of a party and they have funding and they use that funding to go through the voter lists using a service called I'm forgetting political something or other, but there's some sort of a service that you could use it. You pay for like walking lists so that you know you're only going to knock on doors that are friendly to you or more likely to be friendly to you because they're Democrats or they're Republicans or something like that. And I was an independent, I had no money, and I didn't really give a shit about what party they were. So I would just knock on whatever door. I just kind of walked around and knock on doors. And, you know, I got the question a fair number of times about my beliefs. And, you know, it never even honestly occurred to me to lie about it or anything. So
right.
I was just like, you know, and it's an honest answer, but what I would often tell people, especially if I knew they were Christians, which most people were, who would ask that, is that I don't believe in a higher power in any way, but I'm a big fan of Jesus Christ. I think the guy that they put together, you know, the quotes that are attributed to him in the Bible and things like that. I think if our country actually operated the way that he suggested, we would probably be doing all right, you know? So that seemed to work for a lot of them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't think that the guy really existed as the one in the book, but regardless of that, the messages behind what he was saying are definitely, you know, you can think about that kind of thing.
Yeah. What's going on? Am I talking am I still moving and talking over here?
Yes.
Sort of.
That's weird.
Not in time, but it is happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know what's going on, but I should have plenty fast enough internet and all that, so I don't really understand it, but all right.
You know, we've done like a handful of shows together, but today it's just like, nope.
Yeah, today's like, yeah, no, we're gonna just do all kinds of weird stuff now. Okay.
God is intervening.
Fair enough.
It is. Proof of God.
Not really.
Here first.
Yeah. So, but you know, as a cradle atheist, here's the thing about it. As a cradle atheist, which, you know what, I want to talk about something. This is a little bit of an aside, but
sure.
You mentioned in talking about it, because I told Mikey that I'd never heard of that term, cradle atheist, and you said that all your friends that are cradle atheists also had never heard of the term.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't that stand out as something you shouldn't use that term, maybe? Because if the cradle atheists themselves don't actually know the term and have never acknowledged the term, Like, isn't that a little bit odd to be using a label for people that they didn't actually approve?
You get called what you're called.
Maybe.
I mean,
I
does
think-
that apply to everybody, Mikey?
It would
Well,
seem so.
I guess so, yeah.
A few of my friends that hadn't heard the term, but once they did, they kind of liked it. They thought, "Oh, that's actually got a bit of
Yeah.
a ring to it." So,
Yeah, I was never. I don't think I had a cradle, so I feel a little, left out.
Bassinet atheist.
Yeah, bassinet. No, so but the thing about being
major, maybe. Or...
I've never had a belief in God in my entire life, and so when I was, my mom tells the story. I don't recall this, but we were taking a road trip when I was like 4 years old. And at that point I was already reading like every dinosaur book that I could get my hands on. I was like obsessed with dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist. And
cool.
So I already kind of had a grasp of food chains and death and extinction and lots of stuff like that, and evolution, really, like a decent grasp for a 4-year-old of how evolution would work, right? And my mom tells a story where we were driving and I was just kind of staring out the car window, because that's what you did. This would have been about 1981, so they know iPads or nothing like kids have, right? So I'm like just staring out the window, and at one point I just like out of nowhere just turned to my mom and I said, "Mom," I said, "dinosaurs are extinct, right?" And she goes, "Yes, sweetheart." And I go, "So what's going to come after us when we're extinct?"
Yeah.
And she's just like, "I don't know, sweetie." And I was like, "Okay." And I just kind of went back to my day. But the thing about it,
I'm about to say squids.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, when I was about 7, my parents probably correctly believed I needed a little bit more structure. My mom was kind of a spiritual type, but not really a Christian or anything, but she believes in God. My dad was, he's a Christian, I think now, but at the time, like he never really brought it up. And so I was just in a household where that wasn't really a thing we had talked about. But when I was 7, they sent me to Sunday school at this local church. And so it's a bunch of kids in this classroom, and the lady's asking us questions like, or she's telling a story about Noah's Ark that day. It happened to be Noah's Ark. And me having this understanding of food chains and all this other stuff, I'm sitting there and I'm watching her tell this story, and I raise my hand, and she's like, "Yes, Steve." And I'm like, "Okay, so 2 of every animal on the boat?" She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." And I kind of like sit back. I'm like, "Okay." And then a little while later, I raise my hand again, because she's telling us about how there's like 2 lions and 2 gazelles and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I raise my hand again, and I'm like, "Well, what happens?" I said, "You let 2 lions off and 2 gazelles off the boat, and then the lions are going to eat one of the gazelles, and then you're not going to have any more gazelles, because you need more than 1 gazelle to make more gazelle." And I'm 7. And she kicked me out of class. So that was my last day. She kicked me out. She said I was being disruptive. She took me outside and called my parents. My parents came and picked me back up. And I'm just like, wow. So even at 7 years old, I was like, man, if these people can't handle my questions, like I don't need to give them any time. Like, what am I doing here? Why would I bother? Right. Like, even at that age, they couldn't handle my questions. So, and then later on in life, as because it is tough, honestly, because there's not a lot of atheists, especially at that age. When you're a kid, most kids are indoctrinated in, so they're even if they don't know what they believe necessarily, they know that they believe something. Their parents talk about God and all this other stuff. And so, going up into junior high and high school, most of my friends were religious, and they would always ask me about, like, if I would come to church with them and stuff. And I never obviously wanted to go. And, the experience as a 7-year-old was a bit of a, it turned me off a bit. But then this is a true story. There was a girl that I wanted to bang when I was in high school. But And she would only have sex with, this was what she told me, this was her exact words, she would only have sex with Christians.
Oh, really?
Which even at that time I was like,
Wait
all
a
right,
minute.
like, you know, you're a hypocrite, but whatever, I still want some, right? So like, because you know, you're well, I mean, as a teenage boy, right? Like, what are you thinking about all the time? It's just constantly, that's all you think about. So
You're pretty much walking around with a heart on, if you ask me.
yeah, exactly. So you know, I didn't care. I was like, I was willing to sell out any of my principles to get a hold of that. Yeah. So she asked me to go with her to youth group, and I went to youth group with her, and I just couldn't handle it. So like one youth group meeting, and I ended up just leaving, and then the youth group pastor guy follows me out, and we ended up in like a 2-hour debate in the parking lot, where I was just basically telling him he's an idiot, and you know, but like he couldn't answer the questions I was asking. And then I finally, as ammunition, really, I read the Bible once to give it a try. I read the whole thing. And when I got to the end of it, I was like, yeah, this is a lot of horseshit. So I read it again. And the second time I read it, basically just to have ammunition to use against people, because, you know, I really did feel like I was being discriminated against in a lot of ways, you know, excluded from things and stuff like that, just for my lack of faith. So, you know, but in some ways I'm thankful for it, because it also helps me understand as a straight white man how it might feel for some other people to be treated similarly. Although I can't walk into Best Buy and have them follow me around because I'm obviously an atheist or something like that, which is a difference. But you know, I still do feel like
literally me.
Yeah, oh, of course it is.
Literally me.
That's why I said it. I'm trying. But you know, but I do understand what it's like to feel like an outsider, to feel like people don't want you here and stuff like that. And I think that helps, you know, to understand sort of the plight of some people in our society today, you know. So
sure,
in some ways, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you even though we're like cishet white males, middle-aged, whatever, you know, the least oppressed group on the planet, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's still when you say something like, "Oh, actually, I don't believe in God," suddenly you are now a minority.
Yeah.
You know, even with our status as is, now you've been bumped out of the in group into an out group somehow, and you're like,
I mean, atheists, I think currently are a little over 10% of the population in the United States. Maybe, you know,
I think it's a little higher than that. I think it's
15?
close to 15. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm on it.
Because it's been growing a lot, but still, even with that, if you thought about Congress as being representative, and a lot of people bring that up in regard to racial minorities, ethnic minorities, you know, LGBTQ, etc., that they want Congress to be representative. But I think there's one atheist in Congress, but there might not even be one anymore. But last I checked, there was one. It's not a thing I check up on all the time, but that's 1 out of 435 or 535 if you count the Senate. That's not nearly 14% or whatever, right? So no, it's also a minority that needs better representation, you know?
Agreed. Also, I think you were kind of right a little bit when you said they're probably more than we realize, but they don't want to come out and say anything.
Right.
Right. So
yeah. Well, and
by the way,
there's a negative connotation to saying they're sociopaths, but I think that they are, and it should be a negative connotation in this context, but I don't think sociopaths very often are religious, like genuinely religious people, right? So
they may feign it, but I doubt.
Exactly.
Right. But one thing I want to an issue with the whole video catching up to the speech and stuff. Are you using Safari?
No, I'm using Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening.
It's the baby Jeebus. In one 2018 research paper using indirect probabilistic methods with considerable uncertainty, estimated that 26% of Americans are atheists, which is much higher than the 3 to 11% rates that are consistently found in surveys.
Really?
So people are afraid to say it.
Yeah.
It's similar to gun owners. Gun owners, like a lot of anti-gun people, like to bring up statistics that show this, like, of the whatever 100 million or 500 million guns or whatever it is that we have, in our country, they're owned by like a very small percentage of people. But gun owners lie about what they have. If somebody calls their house and says, "Hey, what kind of guns do you have?" or whatever, they're not going to tell you.
None of your damn business.
Most gun owners, yeah, exactly. They don't want you to know. So it's a similar thing, probably, is they just lie.
I'm the rubber who's casing your house. Do you have any firearms?
Yeah, exactly. It's the dumbest thing. Or if you go the other way, "Hi, I'm from the government. Do you have any firearms?"
None of your damn business.
Yeah,
I'm trying to complete my collection. You got any?
Oh, let me put you on hold.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, but like, it is an interesting dynamic as a politician, but it honestly didn't come up all that much here in California. But the truth is, and it really is to me, the truth that I really like the teachings of Jesus Christ as according to the Bible, and I really wish actual Christians actually did that stuff.
Yeah, well, they're not all of them, mind you, because Miss Sassy is one, so I can't lump everyone in. But
okay.
Very judgmental, I think, is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not a part of their tribe.
Well, yeah.
So,
yeah,
but I guess humans can be that way in general, anyways. I figure, but
who?
Humans in general can be quite.
Humans being judgmental. I never heard of it. I thought,
especially if you're not my damn tribe.
But I loved the timing of this thing. If you notice, everybody, even though my picture, my video is not keeping up with my voice, and I don't know what the hell sort of technological loop I'm stuck in here, but whatever that is, if you look behind me, that's the Supreme Court, and I'll lean so it'll take like 20 seconds for it to show up. But behind me, that's the Supreme Court right now, with a nice thing to protect them from the wrath of their own people. Because that's how much they really care about the people and what they think. They're at the Supreme Court, and if you've read the actual thing that came from the Supreme Court, the leak document, it's not just about the right to abortion, but they bring up all kinds of other stuff in that, and it's basically a white Christian nationalist point of view. And the idea that blows my mind, and I went on a rant about this with my wife last night to the point that she started actually falling asleep in the middle of it because like it was just so long. Because she's a saint to live with me, I swear. But like she, the thing about it is it's a legitimately white Christian nationalist document. The way that thing is written, that conclusion. It has no real basis on constitutionality or anything like that. The many of the founders, including the guy that penned the Constitution, were not Christians. Not for nothing. And they might have been slave owners and lots of other stuff, but a lot of them weren't Christians. And I'm sitting here going, and how awful and disgusting is it, because it is true that like we have this white Christian nationalist document that's being used at the highest, it's got a majority vote in the highest offices of our country, and the supposed opposition party is simply going to use it to fundraise off of and make more money and maybe get some more votes, but they're not going to do shit to actually stop the white Christian nationalists from having their way. Because if they did that, like, think about it logically, if it helps them raise money and if it helps them get more votes, why would they ever fix that? Anything that helps them raise money and get votes is good, right? They're not going to fix that shit.
More of that, please.
Yeah. So like that's our opposition. We're so fucked. We're so fucked.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I saw them fucking front loading that the justices there, the Supreme Court judges there, with all them conservative fucking nut jobs, I was like, oh, well, it was nice knowing you, U.S. Like as soon as that started happening,
that was a wrap.
Trump's fucking dictatorship. I mean,
Yeah, but they all
on the
lied
global
under oath when they were interviewed by Congress about like what they would do with Roe v. Wade and all this other stuff. And like, how's that a thing? It's bad enough.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's bad enough that politicians lie and everything and tell you whatever you want to believe in order to get your vote, in order to get in office, because that's already a defeat of democracy, right? Because if you can't vote for people based on what they're really going to do or what they really stand for, then it's not a democracy, right? Like you're voting for fictional shit. It doesn't even exist.
That's their favorite kind of shit. Is the fictional shit.
Of course, but then on top of that, they're actually in Congress, and these people have lifetime motherfucking appointments to this court, and they're being interviewed by our supposed representatives about their stances on certain things in order to garner the votes of our supposed representatives to be put into the Supreme Court in the first place, and they just fucking lie. They just lie about it, and then when they get in there, they do something completely else. It's like, this hasn't been a democracy for a long time, but if people are still not picking up on that, they're the dumbest motherfuckers around. Like it is over. And we can't have, like, I don't believe that there's a way to fix a government, any government, without the will of the people, without the people themselves being smart enough and informed enough to actually stand up and do the right things, because you're always going to end up with some dictatorial, thing. So, I think that's a wrap. Like Mikey said, it's all done, folks. That's it.
The game.
It's the game. It's done. Might as well buy up some ammo, because hopefully these justices are dumb enough after this to go ahead and reaffirm the right to bear arms and allow all the gays and the women and all the other people that they don't think are legitimate citizens of this country to buy up a bunch of fucking guns, and it's going to be on. That's what's going to happen. That's where we're headed.
Another beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Isn't it nice? Oh my God. And I have a 2-year-old.
Neighbor.
Like, I'm so fucking,
Right.
I hardly sleep. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I think about the world that she's going to be living in, Fuck.
Yeah. It's I think about some of the predictions made about how the world is going to be recently by people, and it's looking exactly like it's just going to become The Handmaid's Tale at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, except that everybody has guns. That's the only, honestly, it's going to be like, that is the only saving grace that we might have, is that it's not going to be that easy to just roll up everybody, People are always like, well, look, they got drones, they got this, they got that. I'm like, yeah, they had that in Afghanistan too. How'd that work out? In Vietnam, how'd that work out? Right? Like an insurgency is a different thing, than just a straight up war. And as long as people have the ability to fight and the will to fight, then at least we'll have a chance. But every time I see, it just drives me crazy watching liberals online sit here and talk about, like, just vote. We need to vote more blue in. And I'm just like, God, like, give me a fucking break.
They mean well.
I mean, do they?
They think they mean well. They think they're helping.
Yeah. I think if that was going to help, it would already,
Yeah. That's where it got us before.
Hey,
did you ever get like dragged to, since you like never were like a believer or anything, like did you ever get like dragged like by an aunt, or like you're off like at cousin Billy's house and they go to church every Sunday, and then like what was that like if you got stuck in church?
No, it's funny. When my dad was first diagnosed with cancer, that's when he sort of found Jesus. And he served in Vietnam, and he's got a really rare form of cancer that always comes back called mantle cell lymphoma. It's from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And his was the first case of it actually being put into remission at the City of Hope. They had an experimental chemo that put it into remission like 3 times now. And he's had a few other cancers too. He's had like 5 cancers in the last 15 years.
Wow.
And somehow has beaten all of them. But
go, bravo.
He was, well, so far, but he when that happened and he was really searching for answers and trying to find the right sort of place to be, to find some peace. I found him a church. He initially found a church himself, a Calvary Chapel, and it caused a rift in our relationship because they're just, you know, assholes. Like they're the types that, like, I mean, just in my local community here in Chino Hills, there's been a handful of kids that went there who've killed themselves because they were gay and stuff like that, whose parents went there. So, you know, in the past decade or two, and like, that's the kind of place it is. And so, like, I'd have them over at a dinner at our house, my parents, and my dad would be sitting there, and he's like, you know, the school district's teaching kids, they're indoctrinating kids into Islam. They're being Muslims and stuff.
No,
Like, no, they're not, Dad.
no, they're not.
And he's like, no, they are. They're teaching them Islam. And I'm like, you mean social studies? Are you talking about social studies, Dad? Because social studies is the thing that they're supposed to teach, right? Because you want to know how the world actually works and what things people believe and whatever. And so anyway, after that, a few times, I actually did some research. I found a church that was more, that focused a lot more on the Jesus part and a lot less on the hellfire and brimstone, First Testament or whatever part, and Old Testament part. And I took him there, and I literally handed him off to the pastor at the door. I said, here, Dad, here's a place for you. And I walked him to the door, and the pastor's like, are you coming in? I'm like, nope.
No, thanks.
No, thank you. And he was super puzzled. Like, the pastor was just like, what in the hell is going on? You know? But the thing is it wasn't about me. It was about my dad. I wanted my dad to be better. I wanted him to feel better, you know, and if he thought that Jesus, you know, belief in God and that sort of thing was going to help him in that regard, then I wanted to help him feel better. That's what you do, right? You love somebody, you want them to feel better. I didn't want him to think like I think. I wanted him to feel better. And, you know, but I also knew that if I went in that church, I would hate it. So, you know, that was how it worked. And, you know, he went there for a long time. And then when I was running for office the first time in 2018 election, I got invited, which I'm pro-gun, because I'm a bit radical, but, you know, pro-gun. Because I'm pro-people, right?
Radical to be pro-gun.
Well, I mean, it is a bit, because I think that the guns are there to be used against the government in the case that the government needs it, right? Like that's a bit radical in most circles.
Fair enough.
But I got invited to this church during that, like near the end of that campaign. They were it was a church that was having an anti-gun violence day, and I'm like, well, I'm anti-gun violence, right? Like, I'm pro-gun, but of course I'm anti-gun violence. So I went. And then I was watching. I actually went through the service, and the service was great. It was like this, what they call themselves a progressive church, and they went through all this, like their hymns and songs at the beginning were all about, like, you know, people being together no matter what they are, you know, being treated well if they're gay or and all this other stuff. And, you know, it was all this stuff that I believe too. And I was like, okay, all right. So I told the pastor afterwards, I said, you know, I'll see you next weekend. I'm going to come back. And I was the only one of the candidates who came back. There was only a couple of us that actually even went. And there was at the time like 16 in that race. But there's a couple of us went, and I was the only one that went back, and I ended up joining the church, and I did a shit ton of church stuff. It was a church at Diamond Bar, and I'm honestly blanking on the name because it's been a couple years now, but I joined the church, did a bunch of repairs to the church, all this other stuff. And then when the time to run came back around again, I held a community thing for the church so that they could come to one of the church members' houses and learn about what I'm about, what I'm trying to do, what I believe is going on in our country and in our government. Because most of these people they considered themselves to be, you know, very progressive and very, you know, open-minded. Mm-hmm. And this is after like a year of going to that church and really busting my butt for these people and all that stuff. It was kind of an elderly congregation, and 8 people showed up.
Wow.
8 people showed up because a couple of the higher ups in the church, including the pastor, as it turns out, she didn't advertise this, but as it turns out, she was named to be the guy that won the 2018 race was this rich moron named Gil Cisneros, who literally won the lottery in like 2010. He was a Republican when he won the lottery, but he won like $260 million in the lottery. And that's what he used to get elected. Shit. And he's the dumbest motherfucker I've ever met. Like in terms of like, I swear to God, I was in probably 8 debates with the guy, and he was just dumb as hell. Like, and I couldn't believe it. Right. Like how stupid the guy is. And
surprised he remembers how to breathe.
It was incredible. Like at one point he said that, because he was in the Navy, and he said that like one point the gun thing came up at one of the debates, and he said, look, I was taught how to use AK-15s in the Navy. And I'm like, all right. So then I got the mic and I'm like, yeah, AK-15 isn't a thing. Number one. Number two, the Navy doesn't use AR-15s either. Right. If you're on board ship, you're using a shotgun, maybe. Like there's some training with shotguns and stuff like that, but you don't want to have projectiles bouncing down metal hallways on a fucking ship. Are you serious? What the hell's going on? Like this guy's an idiot. So anyway, turns out the pastor was named his like religious advisor or something, and she just didn't tell anybody. And then one of the other higher ups went around encouraging people not to come to my event. So the very next weekend after that, I had a friend. We went to church that day, like we did every Sunday, and I still was an atheist the whole time. Like I went to church because I liked the message and I liked the people. But I had a friend of mine go and put a letter on everybody's car while we were inside, and then we left afterwards. And then they all got to see exactly what happened, because I didn't want to leave them hanging wondering why I never came back. I thought that they had a right to know. But at the same time, it was just another one of those examples of like, religious people talking one game, and then when it comes back around and they actually are getting, called on it or expected to actually behave the way that they preach, they don't, Right. And so it's just yet another example. It was my first and only time I've ever actually joined a church and gone to church. And I genuinely liked most of the people, but sure. That's what it is.
Yeah. So I have no issues with people going, like even if you're an atheist, you want to go to church or synagogue or even a mosque if you want, knock yourself out. But I find it really hard to sit through sermons and stuff because I'm just constantly rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, people, come on.
But they did it right, though, honestly, with the sermons and stuff. Like they would talk about current events and things. But it was really funny because they ended up mostly unfriending me on Facebook and things like that, because like after I left the church, one of these people, they were talking about how, because it was like early in COVID at that point, and they're talking about how it was so tragic that they couldn't have a speaker at their child's high school graduation and all this stuff. And they said, but we're so thankful to have Barack Obama as a speaker, virtually. He's going to give this commencement address over the internet, and that's so great.
Cool.
And I just replied, I said, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think war criminals doing the commencement speech at my child's school would probably be bad. I'm not sure I would actually support it. And they're like, how dare you, sir, talk about it? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, have you been living under a rock? And I'm like putting up links to like Amnesty International criticizing Obama's war efforts and things like that. And they're just like, la, 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 fingers in their ears, la, la, can't, I'm just like, you guys are lost. Like, Jesus Christ.
Well, I think almost every president has had some sort of war go on during their term.
Yeah, but Obama ran on ending the wars, and he ended up starting a one in 5 more countries instead. Including Libya, where he tried to feign that it was this Arab Spring thing that got it started, and what it actually was CIA trained ISIL in the early stages that ended up kind of doing a lot more damage after that. I don't know if you heard about them. They changed their name to ISIS, and they kind of went around, and it wasn't the best.
No, I agree.
So it's just one of those but for people to proclaim to be faithful in Jesus Christ and God, and knowing that God under those circumstances is all powerful and sees everything and knows everything and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to fool him, right? You're not going to fool him and make him think, oh no, I was just kidding, right? I knew, whatever. So the fact that they proclaim faith in this man, and then they turn around and they talk about, and they're such hypocrites about things like war, which I think Jesus was pretty fucking clear about, it always just strikes me really odd. And I get, it's funny because I get more offended about other people's religion not being followed. And I'm not, and I don't follow it either. I mean, that at all. But I
Kinda
get super.
hypocritical?
Yeah. So
Well, no,
anyway.
because you're not a believer anyways, but believers that don't follow what they're being preached.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I mean, there's
different.
hypocrisy to everything. Everybody's got hypocritical
of
things,
course.
right? And I try to root mine out, but there's some that are just, that's how it's going to be, right? But
It is what it is, people.
I like strippers, but I'd prefer if my daughter's not one. You know what I mean? Like when I was younger, it's right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people who are strippers or sex workers. I don't think that's an actual problem, but I still would prefer if my daughter doesn't end up being one, so I'm a hypocrite too.
Until you see the money.
Well, I
They
mean,
make a lot
but
of
it's just
fucking money.
it's just how the world
dated
is, right?
one,
There's
so-
going to be conflicts like that, and it doesn't make you a bad person for understanding it or whatever. But it's there's some things I've learned in my 45 years. There's some things you just got to let it go. You just got to be like, that's just the way it is, and you don't have to think about it too much. Just fucking let it go.
Yes, as long as it's not harmful or affecting people. That
Of
you care
course.
about,
That's what freedom's all about, isn't it?
Yeah,
and that's the funniest thing. And again, let's return to the Supreme Court. The whole point of liberty, by the way, most of the same people who support the Supreme Court ruling that bans abortions, that effectively allows states to ban abortions and all this other stuff, are the same people that talk about bodily autonomy, that they don't want to get a fucking shot in their arm to prevent them from catching a thing during a pandemic, or don't want to wear a mask when they go into places or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
So how the fuck is that a thing, right?
Yeah, I know.
Because like bodily autonomy, well, let's see. But the bottom line is liberty has always been, the concept of liberty has always been that you whatever it is that you believe or whatever, you're allowed to do that right up to the point that it takes away somebody else's liberty, somebody else's right to believe or do whatever they want to do, right? Like the old analogy or whatever being that you can swing your arms around all you want right up until your hand touches somebody's nose, right? And then you can't do that anymore. So that's what liberty is about. And this Supreme Court ruling just justifies what is the opposite of that. Nobody has a right. Like, you have a right to believe whatever faith you want, but your right ends at you. You don't have a right to make me believe that shit. You don't have a right to enforce those laws upon anybody else. And the founders of this country fucking knew that. That's the part that drives me crazy. When you actually look at the founders, for all their flaws, and they had plenty.
Oh, yes.
They understood it. They understood this point, They really did. So, and it's one of my favorite subjects. I've read a bunch of those guys, and, a lot of the stuff that they, biographies, autobiographies, etc. And there's plenty of problems, but the reality is for the time, they understood a lot of this shit a lot better than people do now. And it's been almost 250 years now. And somehow they understood it better back then than they do now. So
to be fair, they didn't have the distraction of Twitter and TikTok, so they can hyper focus on things without all the distractions of the modern era.
Fuck, are you so right? And I mean, that's why I have my alerts turned off for all of my social media. I only go and look when I want to, because it's just like this. And I've been that way for a couple of years now, but it's just I told you this on the last podcast I was on with you, Mikey, but I have completely lost fucking faith in people, like in humanity. I have no faith anymore. I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take care of my family and my kid. And then, that's just going to be how it's going to have to be. Right. I mean, that's another hypocrisy though, because like, I know how bad things are going to get. I know where we're headed. I want to try and help. And maybe I'm going to start a podcast or something. Maybe Mikey can help me with that, to try and get the understanding of how the system actually works out there. Just put it out there. I don't give a shit if nobody watches it, but I feel like it's just a responsibility to put it out there and make sure that it's available for people to see it and understand it if they want to. And then maybe check out after that. Once I get the sort of thesis out there, I'm just gonna, I just can't deal. I got to take care of my kid, make sure that she has a life after I'm dead, because, I'm an old dad. She was born, I was 42 years old, almost 43 years old when she was born. So I'm going to be 60 when she graduates high school. So, I have already faced up to the idea that most people who have children, they're around their children well into, their children's adulthood, right? They're there most of the time. And very likely I'm not going to be around as long as a lot of people's parents are, right, for their kids. Right. So I have to sort of do something to try and make the world a little bit better before I bail out. But it's another hypocrisy, right? Because the right way to do it would be to try to fix it. If I thought that there was a way to fix it, I would. But I just don't think there is anymore.
Well, if you need it, when the time comes, I got a cane here for you if you want there.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Do you have kids?
No. Well, none that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's the ultimate male privilege right there.
Yep.
None that I know
Absolutely.
of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I highly doubt it, but there was a rumor one time, I never heard anything more of it. So that's why I always say that.
Well, I have to say I'm a fan of the idea, and although it doesn't matter, I'm sure it doesn't matter to you. It's really cool being a parent. So like you're missing out. It's about the coolest damn thing in the world.
Well, believe you me, sir, I get to be the cool ass uncle to like a dozen kids. So.
I mean, that's good. It's just not the same, man.
No, you're right. It's not.
Because I was that too, but
I enjoy it though, and I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen this book? Because you were talking about the founders of your country and whatnot.
Yeah.
Have you read The Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel?
No, but the subhead on that seems exactly right. So I probably support the point of it.
It's a fantastic book. I have it both on Audible and also the hard copy, and I highly recommend it.
Well, let me tell you this, because this also came up when I was putting my wife to sleep with my rant the other night. Christian nationalism by itself is hypocritical.
Yep.
Like Jesus was 100% against nationalism.
Yep.
So to be a Christian nationalist is already a ridiculous proposition.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So the whole thing is just so ridiculous. But I mean, just off the top of my head, most of the southern, like Virginia, Maryland people in that, so most of them were slave owners. But Jefferson, Madison, Washington, and many of the others were deists. They believed in a general higher power, but they believed that Jesus Christ was not the Lord and Savior. And Thomas Jefferson, you can still buy it today. There's a Bible called the Jefferson Bible. You can buy it on Amazon, where he basically took a razor blade to a real Bible and cut out all the shit that he thought was horse shit. He cut out all the miracles and all the other stuff that he thought was nonsense. And they called him a heretic. A lot of people did. John Adams, for example, called him a heretic when they ran against each other for president and tried to make him out to be an atheist. Actually,
of course he did.
Yeah, and that's true. But like,
Thomas Jefferson, did that?
Yeah, and Thomas Jefferson though also has a Quran. There's like at Monticello, if you ever visit, there's a Quran there. He read the Quran, and like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff about that guy that, yeah, he was a slave owner and he was a bastard, right?
Most of them were back then.
But there's a lot about the guy that I think that we could actually still learn from and be able to, you don't have to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater, right? And especially when you're in American politics, I really love using quotes from our founders that are basically socialist quotes, that like legitimately are real. Like, give me this thing. I'll give you one right now, because it's just too easy and it's super fun. But I have a folder on here, so
lay it on.
The
quotes folder.
Yeah. Well, it's for Here you go. So this one is from another deist, although he started out life as an Episcopalian named Benjamin Franklin. He was also the first slave abolitionist. He did own slaves when he was younger, but he was an abolitionist by the time he was older. But this is from him. He was writing back from Passy, France. So after the Revolutionary War, to give some background, after the Revolutionary War, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and first it was John Jay, and then I think he got replaced with John Adams, were sent to France where King Louis was, him and his wonderful wife Marie Antoinette, and they were negotiating terms of peace with between England, France, and the U.S. because France helped the United States defeat England in the war, and so the whole point, and by the way, and the whole reason they went was they were trying to not have allegiance with either country. They wanted to be able to trade freely with both France and England. And France obviously didn't really want that because they helped us win. And England wanted the natural resources too. So they were trying to play this middle ground. And Ben Franklin the stories are that like almost every night and this is like in his 60s or 70s, he would have 3 or 4 French whores in his room with him, taking baths with him and all this stuff, basically every night. But he wrote back a letter to his wife in the United States, and this was his letter that he wrote back.
All right.
He said, this was in the letter. He said, all the property that is necessary to a man for the conservation of the individual and the propagation of the species is his natural right, which none can justly deprive him of. But all property superfluous to such purposes is the property of the public, who by their laws have created it, and who may therefore by other laws dispose of it whenever the welfare of the public shall demand such disposition. He that does not like civil society on these terms, let him retire and live among savages, which is his awful way of calling American Indians. He can but he said, the final sentence, he says, he can have no right to the benefits of society who will not pay his club towards the support of it. That's a he's on the $100 bill, that guy, right? And nobody knows that this is like how he stood. And then I'll do 2 more because this one's Thomas Jefferson, because this is at the same time from Passy, France. So I know that him and Jefferson, or him and Franklin, are talking about this shit, right? So he's over there with Franklin, and they're doing the same thing. So he writes back a letter to James Madison during the same period of time. Jefferson says, the property of this country is absolutely concentrated in a very few hands, having revenues from $500,000 guineas a year downwards. He says, I am conscious that an equal division of property is impracticable, but the consequences of this enormous inequality producing so much misery to the bulk of mankind, legislators cannot invent too many devices for subdividing that property, only taking care to let their subdivisions go hand in hand with the natural affections of the human mind. Another means of silently lessening the inequality of property is to exempt all from taxation below a certain point, and to tax the higher portions of property in geometrical progression as they rise. And then his final statement was, whenever there is in any country uncultivated lands and unemployed poor, it is clear that the laws of property have been so far extended as to violate natural right. The earth is given as a common stock for man to labor and live on. Right? That's a fucking Thomas Jefferson, right? Like,
well,
Jesus.
he's wrong. So
Well, he was right on the other stuff that he didn't actually say, that's on the internet that I saw on Facebook and like other memes and stuff that he didn't actually say. That stuff I agree with. This other stuff, he sounds like a commie. It's like, yeah, he kind of does, doesn't he? Imagine that. And then last one is James Madison, right? James Madison says, in every political society, parties are unavoidable. A difference of interests, real or supposed, is the most natural and fruitful source of them. The great object should be to combat the evil of parties. Number one, by establishing political equality among all, and he meant all. 2, by withholding unnecessary opportunities from a few that would increase the inequality of property by an immoderate and especially an unmerited accumulation of riches. And 3, by the silent operation of laws which, without violating the rights of property, reduce extreme wealth towards a state of mediocrity and raise extreme indigence toward a state of comfort. Like, that's a fucking James Madison. He's the author of the Constitution. So why are we in this position? Why are we in this position where we have this extremist Supreme Court who's practicing essentially Christian nationalism? And these are the guys that actually founded this country, that wrote the Constitution and you know, voted on the what's in it and everything else. How do we end up in this situation where everything's been so fucking perverted? You know, it drives me up a goddamn wall, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't think it can be. You know,
it would take a fuck ton of effort and a lot of time,
and a lot of bullets, probably.
And probably, yeah, and probably you're probably right.
No, we just have to amend the Constitution. That's super easy to do.
Yeah, but it should be, but
it ain't.
No, because everything is fucked up like this. So like, you need 2/3 of the states to vote for a constitutional amendment, or you need 2/3 of Congress to do it, to bring a constitutional convention, right? And under their circumstances, when they wrote the Constitution, that wasn't that hard to think about, right? But nowadays, everybody's drawn these lines in the sand, and everybody's so polarized that, like, you know, it's basically impossible. You can't get, you know, you have most of the population living in a small number of states between California, New York, and Florida, and, you know, whatever, like, but a small number of states have most of the people. And so the whole country will end up getting held hostage by the other states that decide that they don't want, you know, certain things, or they do want other things or whatever. And then they're not going to bring a constitutional convention. So we're just fucking stuck here until this whole place collapses. You know?
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen.
It's gonna.
Every empire falls, they say, right? Every empire.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is what the goal really should be, when people really start to figure out what's actually happening, the goal really should be to make sure that that after it falls, we have, like, that we win whatever it is that we need to win at the end, and then we can build something better in its place. Because the danger is, I mean, because it's not like when the United States falls, it's not like all of a sudden everything just ceases to be, right? Like, it's not how it works. But governments are going to splinter off into their own little things and stuff, and we just need to make sure that the good people win, that the right ideas win this time, and that we can keep it that way. And that's not that easy, but that's what needs to happen. You know, that's pretty much probably going to be the only way out of this mess.
Yep, I agree. And I'm just going to sit up here in Canada with my popcorn.
I was about to say, or I run away to Canada.
My wife were talking about that. I'm not sure Canada is necessarily the right move, but we're talking about that too. Trying to figure out where we're going to go. Well, I mean, I feel like Canada is still a little bit of a puppet U.S. place, right? You get healthcare and stuff, but it's not. Yep. It's not super awesome there either. You know.
I'll take it.
We have our problems for sure, as any country does. But
I mean, you're involved in basically every war we're involved in, right? Like, that's
only because we're always like, all right, U.S., don't worry, we got your back, kind of.
Yeah,
thing,
exactly. Right? Which is not, it's a bad move.
Yeah, don't have
brothers in arms. We've been brothers in arms ever since you guys realized we could sneak in there and burn down the White House. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what the hell?
War of 1812, people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But back. Yeah, for a little while it wasn't white, right? The White House. But the
more of a soot colored.
Yeah, it's more of a city gray, black.
Like a charcoal briquette.
Here's an interesting aside also, is like a lot of liberals, and I get it, like I understand, but like a lot of liberals are really mad about the January 6th thing, and they talk about that all the time, this insurrection or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, why did they have to break into the goddamn Capitol building in order to even see their Congress people or anything like that? Why is that a thing in the first place? Why weren't they able to just walk up? Like, I feel like if this is a truly representative democracy, they should have maps at the door of the Capitol, like they have at the zoo, and you should be able to walk around in there, like go to AOC's office, like on the map, and it should be like plexiglass, like it is in a zoo, and just like look in there and see what the fuck they're doing, right? That's the way it should be. Is like you just walk around, kind of knock on it, see if they react, like it's a fish tank, like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing?
For Mitch McConnell, it says no flash photography will scare creature inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have like a warming lamp over his desk to try and keep him from fucking killing over it.
Next to his desk rock.
FYI, there's no maple syrup fountain in Canada. Just FYI.
What?
But like,
Lies.
but like, my point is like, you know,
Bad
why
weed.
why
What's
is
wrong with
that?
you, Robert?
People are really mad about this thing, and you know what? The answer is never to insulate the government more from the people that they're supposed to be representing. That's never going to be the correct answer. That's never going to be it. And the moment that starts happening, all these alarm bells in my head go off, because I'm like, oh yeah, we're fucked. Like this fence behind me in front of the Supreme Court, right? Like, that's not good, folks. This is a bad deal. It's not what you want.
Yeah.
This is a bad way to go.
It almost looks like the entrance to a fucking concentration camp, to be
It does, right? Except the barbed wire would be on the other side, wouldn't it?
Right. This on our side.
Yeah.
And that's actually an analogy I've used, talking about the border wall. And there's a lot of Republicans when I was campaigning and stuff and canvassing that understood what I said when I said it. They'd be like, I'm for the wall, man. We need the wall. And I'm like, why? Like, why do we need a wall for? They're like, keep them out. And I'm like, number one, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
But
But
there's
number
an
two, I
invention
said,
called ladders.
yeah. But then they're like, well, so you're not for the wall. And I'm like, dude, and this is what I tell them. I'm like, man, the only difference between a fortress and a prison is the direction the guards are pointing their rifles.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I want to leave, that wall is going to keep me in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The same way
That's
that
right.
they're trying to keep other people out. And I don't fucking want that. So I'd rather err on the side of my own freedom and the freedom of other people to come and go as they please than on the authoritarian side of, like, you know, we're going to shut the border down. We don't want no brown people. We got enough of you brown people already. You know what I mean?
Y'all aren't from here.
Except they are. They literally are from here.
No, that's what the brown people are saying to hell. The white people's like, you're not from here. Stop saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
But
from
it's funny
somewhere
'cause, like,
else.
I read something not that long ago that something like 97 or 98% of the mitochondrial DNA in Mexican women is Native American.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is literally
They're at
their
home
place.
already.
Yeah, this is theirs. It's already theirs. Like, it's nice that we get to live here too, you know. But fuck it,
Wow.
like, you know, I kind of want out anyway. So I'm legitimately looking at like Iceland as an opportunity, as a possibility.
Ooh,
That'd be cool.
I like Iceland.
I like those people
Switzerland.
there, and they need some. From what I understand, they need some genetic diversity pretty bad up there. So
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
it's
That's
not
true.
so bad.
Yeah, I won't be the first one though. No, I'll wait for somebody else to go first.
You can come live with us, bud. Like, you just,
Yeah.
we'll introduce you. We'll be your white representative. We'll introduce you to all the other white people. We're like, hey, this is our friend. He's fine.
I mean, we're already outnumbered like 6-1. I don't know if 600-1 is better, worse. I don't know if that's.
But they don't strike me as racist. I mean, maybe they are, but I don't know.
It's weird. It's weird that you say that because me and Jarden from the Bin podcast, he's in Sweden and he's from Norway, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we don't really have a race problem here because there's no black people.
Because there's no races. Everyone's white.
Everyone is Swedish or Norwegian. Like everyone is the same, so we don't really have that problem."
Oh,
And then he's
you
like,
know-
"I talked to a buddy. One of his buddies is black that goes to the same motorcycle shop. He's like, yeah, you don't really have a problem, right?" And he's like, "Of course I have fucking problems. What are you, stupid? It's fucking terrible sometimes." And he's like, "Oh, never mind. I take back everything I said."
Yeah. Well, there's racism that white people recognize, and then there's racism that actually exists, right?
Mhm.
That's a different.
Yep.
Those are different things.
People need to get over this fucking bullshit because honestly, there's one race, the human race, and just like every other species, we come in a variety.
Yeah, that's true. But the, you know, and this is another thing. And I rant about liberals because I hate liberals so much. But I rant about them all the time. But like one of the big things that I get from liberals all the time is like, we just need to all interbreed until everybody's like the same gray color. And I'm like, no. Hold on.
Fuck, I'm a liberal. I've never thought of that before.
The answer to racism isn't to eliminate all races from existence. Like, that's not how you fix it, you stupid fuck.
Yeah, no.
Like, you fix it by not being racist. Like, it's not that fucking hard. My daughter's 2 years old. She talks to everybody all exactly the same. She doesn't notice a difference. She sees black people, brown people, white people, and she just walks around and talks to all of them. She has no idea that there's even a difference. Yeah, but like, what the fuck difference does she know, right?
Yeah.
And as long as I have control over that, that's what she's always going to think. But like, it's just, that's not, I don't believe that racism is an inherent thing. There's a lot of people that say that tribalism is inherent and that it's part of being a human. And I just don't, I don't believe it. I don't fucking believe it. I think that it's a laziness problem. I think that tribalism is laziness in disguise. And it's just, you don't want to take the time to try and learn about all the scary things that are different from you. Right. And because ultimately, if you understand shit well enough, you'll understand that things that are different from you aren't bad. It's just different. Right. Different and bad are not synonymous, you know? That's right. But I'm happy with, like, this could come across racist. I don't fucking know, but like, I love Taco Tuesdays, right? I love Taco Tuesdays. It's not to say that that's all that Hispanic people are good for is tacos, but I'm just saying that, like, if I lived in a purely white society, I would be eating fucking, mac and cheese and grilled cheese sandwiches every goddamn meal. And I love that shit, but trust me, I really like it, but goddamn, I can't eat it all the time. Right. Like, diversity of culture is important, and it's good, actually. We want more people of all kinds of different things to add, because that's a strength. Different cultures make your society stronger,
Stronger.
I want to address something real quick. There is some truth to what Stan just said in the chat there. If it wasn't for skin color, it's not just skin color though. There's religious differences, cultural differences, all
ethnic.
You're very right. Humans in general are tribal.
They just use.
We can overcome that. We can.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're naturally tribal. I think they get taught to be tribal, and then everybody just goes, "I don't know. That's how humans are." It's like, yeah, because you were taught that way. That's what the fuck is like. That's
no. We are genetically inclined to it.
I don't think that's true. I don't buy it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we're genetically inclined to, but I don't like. Ultimately, it's a social thing that creates the divisions, because it's when you have a tribe, literally a tribe, and somebody from a different tribe comes up, and you don't know, like, there's a good defense mechanism there to try and keep them away and push them away so that your tribe remains pure from their tribe, so that the unknown doesn't come in and fuck you up, because there will be times when the unknown comes in and does fuck up your tribe, right? So you learn from that. I think it's a social thing that has been taught and learned over the millennia. I don't think it's necessarily a genetic thing, because again, my daughter has no idea about anything. She's 2 years old. She recognizes people. She has, she doesn't think that anybody's different or bad. And if I continue this way, I don't believe that it's just going to start happening, that all of a sudden she's going to be like, oh, wait, that person, they're darker than me, so I don't know if I like them. Like, I just can't imagine that possibly happening. And if it was genetic, it would, right?
I mean,
well, not necessarily. When I say genetically inclined, what I mean is we carry recessive genes from our ancestry, and a lot of the tribalism, which has been with us since the dawn of humans, by the way, is because of survival instinct.
Well, it's more from the dawn of tribes, I think.
Well, the dawn of humans, period.
Well, it's tribalism because it's from the dawn of tribes. It's when we had groups that were set and called a thing and under a certain leader.
But it's
the beginning of society, not the beginning of humans.
It's a survival thing, is what it is.
Right.
And it stayed with us throughout our
because it's social. That's my point. I really believe it's social.
But that's just like the what's it called? Not the Drake equation, but the other part, like to get to like a level, Fermi whatever. The Fermi Paradox, like where to get to a certain level of society, there's going to be all these intrinsic things that are just wrong with people and wrong with societies in general, where if they grow big enough, they eventually just start tearing themselves apart. Like if you just like you got like a little clay on a little spinny thing, and you add more clay, and then eventually the clay is just shooting off of it, and just it's so chaotic because it just can't sustain itself.
Right. Well, the only way to sustain it is through education. and to have people actually understand and acknowledge these things, and to be able to learn, well, right, to be educated. And there's an old George Carlin thing about that where he's like, all these politicians love to talk about education. He's like, but it's not going to get any better. Be happy with what you got, because the owners of this country don't want that. They don't want a population of people capable of critical thinking. They want people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all those increasingly shittier jobs and the lower pay and the loss of their pension, and like their retirement's going away and everything else. And ultimately that's the problem. Is I think societies have an unlimited capacity for growth if education were to actually be able to succeed, if people could actually be properly educated about how the world works and everything else, and actually value things like facts and knowledge, right? Which brings us back to the atheist thing. And but we can't get there as long as the people who own everything can't benefit from an educated society in the first place. They benefit from the polarization and getting people fighting each other all the time. That tribalism is a tool used by the elite to make sure that we never actually do better than what we're doing now. It'll be a constant downward path. So yay, America.
Changes someday.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
America. Fuck yeah.
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 A motherfucking day, yeah.
That's a great movie, by the way.
So terrible. Like watching it back, I'm like, oh man, I was really Islamophobic. Whew.
Oh well, yeah. There's a lot of that stuff.
Boy,
but I think that it's.
When I watched it again, I was like, oh, gross, dude. I feel
Well, here's the thing, though. A lot of and it's different. So to me, racism and other sort of prejudices is mainly about, like, if you want to tell a racist joke, and I can't do this because my video is all fucked up, but if you have to look over both shoulders before you tell the joke,
right,
you're a racist prick and you shouldn't fucking tell the joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Shouldn't tell that joke.
But if you're sitting with your black friend who you've known and you both love each other, right, and you tell him a racist joke to his face, I don't think that's racist, right? Your friend will tell you if he thinks it's racist, and he'll sort you out, or he'll laugh, or he won't, right?
He'll let you know.
But yeah, he'll let you know. But my point is that, like, a lot of what we call racism or prejudice is about, like, wanting to put down somebody who's, worse off or different, or however you want to define it. But the reality is, in my experiences, my friends, my real friends who are not white men like me, we bag on each other for all those intrinsic things about ourselves. All the stereotypes that we all make fun of each other about, that racists make fun of black people about, right? We still bag on each other about some of that stuff because it's just fucking funny, and we know we don't mean it because we love each other. We're good friends. We would do anything for each other. So,
well, they say you always pick on the ones you love, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's
I am
just one of those
heavily
things.
loved.
So I wish we lived in a society where people could tell racist jokes. It sounds awful, but but under those circumstances, being that you actually know and are around people of difference that aren't the same as you, and you can actually make fun of each other using whatever things about them that are, because most of the things you make fun of somebody about, they didn't choose in the first place anyway. You call your friend fat or whatever because he's fat, but you're friends, right? But most of the fat people didn't really choose to be fat, right? So it's just one of these, like, we always have these things, and it's really hard, I think, to be I wish I understand why people aren't okay with this. I do, but I also wish that they were. I really wish that we had a society at a point that we could actually have fun with each other about our differences, celebrate them, talk about the things that make us different, and not talk about them like they're handicaps, or we're not, like, certain people aren't allowed to talk about this because of whatever. I told Mikey this after a show before, but it's ultimately not my call, but like all the Civil War statues and shit like that, my fantasy world would be instead of tearing them down, and I'm fine that they got torn down. I don't give a shit. But instead of tearing them down, I really wish that they stayed up long enough that all the white people that were proud of those things would end up being ashamed of them. And that the white people would end up wanting to tear those things down. Right. Yep. And that the black people would be like, no, you leave those motherfuckers up. Because I want you guys to remember what you guys were and how you acted. Right. I want this to be a thing that we keep in mind. And so that's my world that I wish we had. Right. I don't know that we can get there from here, but that's what I wish, you know,
in time and better understanding and better education.
Because like our history isn't like there's bad things about our history, but it's not a thing that we should ignore. It's dangerous to ignore and to hide the truth of our history. You know, it's dangerous to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So you know what not to fucking do next time.
Yeah. It's not that hard to, but like, here's the thing. This is the thing that from atheists, I want to ask you guys the thing. So neither of you, I assume, are cradle atheists as you call me, right?
Mm-mm.
Right.
Right.
I was born to Christians, but given up for adoption and raised in the Jewish faith. But my story is I never really believed, I guess, in a God. I just kind of went along with it.
That's pretty common, I think.
I just like I would even attempt to ask for help with things like for friends or whatever, but nothing ever happened, of course, because prayer is fucking useless. But there's a great meme I have where the guy's talking into a little horn. This is what prayer is, and the horn just goes right in the back of the helmet into his head, right? So you're basically just talking to yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, and there is value in that, like the placebo effect of, you know, when certain people are sick, if they believe people are like they genuinely believe and they believe people are praying for them. I could see how a placebo effect could make people feel better about things and whatever. But ultimately, like, yeah, it's the worst part about prayer to me is that it makes people believe they did something without doing anything. Right. That's the part that gets me is like, I think a lot of these people are well-intentioned and they would actually help.
Sure.
But they believe they did help just by fucking talking to some imaginary guy, you know, and that shit bothers me bad. Like I'm like, you know, no, when we say help, we mean like actually do something. Can you
get off your knees and do something?
Yeah. Can you actually do something? Like I need to pick up this heavy ass box and put it on the top shelf.
All right, I'm afraid.
Yeah, if you're just going to sit there and talk to some sky daddy about it, like it's not going to help me get this thing up on the shelf, motherfucker. So please help.
Oh, what's that, Steve? What's that, Steve? You need help moving? Hey, man, I'm going to pray for you, man. I'm going to pray you get them boxes up that 3rd flight of stairs.
Man, I pray your heart stays in it and it doesn't give out on you halfway up the 4th flight of stairs because that thing looks heavy.
I pray your ACL does not blow. Try to fucking lift your cabinets of your dresser up the fucking stairs by yourself.
But that's the worst part.
I like that one.
Like when prayer comes along with actual help, then fine. Like you're adding a step, but whatever, right? Do what you want to do. But like, you know, when prayer is the help, it's like, give me a fucking break, guy. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I had a great meme. I don't know what the hell I did with it, but it says your shipment of or your thoughts and prayers have arrived, and it's like the back of a truck that's wide open and it's all empty.
Yeah, of course it is.
Here, eat this.
But you know that's why, and I don't remember who said it, but I know somebody famous talked about it as the opiate of the masses, right? Religion.
Mm-hmm. B. Hitchens, I think.
No, it was older than that, I think. But I don't fuck if I know. You might be right. But
I think you probably rephrased it or something.
Yeah, maybe. But that is ultimately what it is. Because if you can just like go magic, twinkle, twinkle, and then like believe you actually helped something and then move on with your life, like, yeah, that's an opiate all, you know, and that's really where I genuinely have a bit of envy for many religious people because of the fact that I look at it and I'm like, man, it must be fucking nice. It must be nice. Like there are times when what?
Karl Marx wrote that religion
Yeah.
is the opiate of the masses.
Oh well, there you go. I just quoted Marx.
The full quote here is religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of the soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people.
Oh, there you go.
Opiate.
Yeah. Yeah. But he didn't say it in English, so probably in English it would have been like the opiate of the masses.
My German's terrible.
But like, I do genuinely have envy for, like, I'm envious of religious people who can genuinely live life believing that when they die, they're going to see their loved ones again, and that there's justice after death, even if there isn't any before, and these sorts of things. But fuck, I just can't, as much as I'd love to believe it, I just can't. I've never been able to. I just can't put that. It's just too difficult to like. You can't ask me to fool myself consciously. Like I can't actually know that something's bullshit and then convince myself of it. Like it's just not a thing.
Right.
It's like tickling yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like that. That's a great analogy. Mikey, you come up with some really good analogies. The last
I smoke
podcast
weed now.
Are we talking about the same guy?
Well, I'm terrible at analogies, but like the last podcast I was talking about because Hutch said something about, or Dutch said something about he like what was the phrase? He's like cabbage or making that paper or some shit like the cheddar.
Oh my god,
Cheddar,
the cheddar.
And I was like, that is the widest version of that I've ever heard in my life. But then like, but I also understood as he was like, and I made the point that like I don't really co-opt Black cultural language that I gave up on it a long time ago. I picked up on like the stuff that was available to me in the 90s, and that was about it. And Mikey said he's like, oh, so like no further updates, like you're never gonna update your OS, like this is where or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no more downloads. This is all I got. This is where I'm at. And it's a great analogy. Like Mikey comes up with some really good analogies. I'm kind of impressed. I wish I was better at analogies.
Pick up on my new tag team partner. Let's go, world. We're off to the races.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, but geez, wow.
Wait, on the question, one other thing, just real quick. On the question, I just wanted to find out from Mikey, same thing about how you grew up religious-wise.
I just did what I was supposed to do because I was trying to be a good kid. And the more and more I started to follow the things, the more I realized I was the only one following the rules. And then I was like, this is stupid. And then I was like, this is white people's God. Man, I'm fucking out of here. I'm done. Yeah, what the fuck is this? I'm out of here.
Wait, you don't think
this ain't even my
God.
God.
Jesus, obviously, we know that Jesus was white, right? Like he was a white guy with blue eyes.
Yeah,
2,000 years
no,
ago.
I mean, a lot of people aren't a lot of
I
people who are born in Jerusalem like really pale white with blue eyes. Is that like
now? Now maybe.
See,
Not
he
too
was
fucking
from
1,000 years ago.
That's because he was from the future, Neil.
Future Jesus.
That's why he had them them pump up shoes.
Oh, he had Air Jesuses.
He had some Air Force Moses.
I bet you his were not made in sweatshops though.
He had Arc Ones. Arc Force Ones.
Arc Force Ones? Oh, fuck.
Sorry.
They look like little boats.
All right. On that note, we've gone well past the hour hole. I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah, we got caught up there.
Yeah, we certainly did.
Steve, I don't know. My fault.
That's quite all right, man. That's quite all right. I like the conversation. So these are important issues too. However, we always do an after party, Steve. I don't know if you're down for hanging out for.
I am down with it. I would like to fix my video because this is fucking nonsense.
We'll get you squared away.
Just hit F5. Isn't that what does it?
No, don't do it. Don't do F5 right now.
Don't do it now. You can do it in a minute. Because we're going to do
what's F5 do?
Don't do it.
It basically you boot out and kind of reloads itself, and hopefully things work out.
I don't know if that's going to work because that's the reason why I went to the wired thing because I thought it was my Wi-Fi that was slow. But okay,
you're in good hands with Allstate. I'll get you sorted.
It's also shut up.
Well, I mean,
It's
the truth
also-
is I literally have 1 gigabit internet here. Like, it's fast on upload and download both. So like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on with my shit.
Well, internet speed is one thing. Processor speed is a whole other ball of wax, because I had the same issues before, and when I upgraded my processor speed, everything was tickety boo.
This is a Mac, so you
Not a
can't really
word.
do that.
They
But maybe
won't
I
let
switch
you.
computers. I have a PC. I use it for driving simulators, but I could probably do that.
Awesome.
Hilarious.
Do you play
Like-
that trucking game? I'll ask you in the after. Let's get out of here.
Yeah,
I
that's
almost started something else.
fine. All right,
Yeah,
bye.
so we are going to do the after party thing there, guys. So if you're interested in jumping in and hanging out with us, let me know, or Mikey know, through the usual social media channels. As you can see, the video is still catching up with Steve there. So yeah, but thank you guys in the chat there for hanging out with us. Appreciate you guys coming by for the show tonight. Always great to have you there and interact with you guys and stuff like that. So also thanks to my amazing patrons. Got a new $5 patron today,
Bum, 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 bum.
which I want to say thank you to, but the name has escaped me now.
I'm on it.
But thank you, new patron. Anyways, so we'll get into the after party. Come and join us, or you can hang out in the chat, and we can interact with you there as well. So until then, guys, like I always say at the end of the interviews, like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Will anybody see me for who I am? I'm too late, but somehow I keep getting jammed. The real me inside is screaming to be heard, but I can never turn my visions into words. Now I'm tangled, my visions burn. Once untangled,